The city was quiet that evening, a soft drizzle making the streets glisten under the warm glow of streetlights. Most people were either at home, enjoying the comfort of their living rooms, or hurrying to finish their errands. In the midst of all this, a black luxury car moved smoothly through the lanes, the driver expertly maneuvering through the light traffic. Inside, the billionaire, a man known for his wealth and influence, leaned back in his seat, tired after a long day of meetings and business decisions. His mind was filled with numbers, contracts, and deals. Life for him had always been about efficiency, precision, and control. Outside, the world moved at a different pace. The rain had left the air fresh, and the city smelled faintly of wet earth and asphalt. As the car rounded a corner, the billionaire noticed something unusual. A figure lay on the side of the road, huddled and still. At first, he thought it might be a homeless person or someone who had fainted, but as the car slowed, he realized it was his maid. She was sleeping on the wet pavement, her small body barely protected from the cold drizzle. He could see her thin coat soaked from the rain and the exhaustion etched into her face. His heart skipped a beat. How could someone so close to him, someone he trusted and depended on every day, be sleeping on the streets like this? He stopped the car abruptly, the tires screeching slightly on the wet road. Without a second thought, he got out, his expensive shoes splashing in the shallow puddles. He approached her carefully, not wanting to startle her. As he bent down and gently shook her shoulder, she stirred, her eyes fluttering open. Confusion and fear mixed in her gaze as she tried to sit up. "Sir?" she whispered, her voice hoarse and trembling. I didn't mean to." The billionaire knelt beside her, trying to keep his voice calm. "Why are you sleeping here? Why didn't you come home?" She looked down, ashamed, tears threatening to spill. I had so much to do. The laundry, the cooking, cleaning the neighbor's house for extra money. I couldn't make it home. I fell asleep here for a few minutes." His heart sank. He had known she worked hard, but he had never realized the extent of her struggles. He had always assumed she had a modest but decent home and lived comfortably enough with her family. Seeing her here in this state shattered that image. He could see the toll that her life of endless labor and barely enough pay had taken on her. She was only a few years younger than his own daughter, yet she carried the weight of the world on her small shoulders. He helped her up, feeling her shiver as he wrapped his coat around her. She hesitated for a moment, trying to refuse, but he insisted. "Come with me. You can't stay here. Not like this." She followed quietly, her pride warring with her need. They got into the car, and the warmth inside contrasted sharply with the cold she had just endured. The billionaire watched her carefully, seeing the exhaustion in her eyes and the way she tried to hold herself together. He realized that this was more than just a moment of weakness. This was a glimpse into a life of constant struggle, a life he had never truly understood. The drive back to her small apartment was silent, except for the soft hum of the engine. The city passed by, lights reflecting off the wet streets, and the billionaire's mind raced. He thought about his own life, his comfort, and his endless schedule of meetings and events. He realized that in his pursuit of success and wealth, he had been blind to the realities of those who worked for him, those who made his life easier but whose own lives were far from easy. When they arrived at her building, he helped her out of the car and led her inside. The apartment was small and humble, barely furnished, with a few personal touches that showed her effort to make it feel like home. Her children, 2 young boys, were asleep in a tiny bedroom, their faces peaceful and innocent. Seeing them, the billionaire felt a pang of guilt and sorrow. How could anyone live in such conditions and still manage to care for their family, work tirelessly, and face each day with courage? She turned to him, embarrassed and hesitant. "Thank you, sir. I didn't mean to trouble you." He shook his head. "You're not troubling me. I had no idea things were this hard for you." She looked away, ashamed that her struggles were so visible. He could see the pride and dignity she tried to maintain, even in the face of hardship. It made him respect her even more, but it also filled him with a determination to do something, anything to ease her burden. For the first time, he began to think not about deals, profits, or his own comfort, but about her life and the lives of people like her. He wondered how many others were in similar situations, working tirelessly yet living in such hardship. The thought made him uncomfortable, forcing him to confront the stark realities that his wealth had shielded him from. As he prepared to leave, he made a decision. He would not ignore this. He could not. He needed to find a way to help her, to ensure that no one working for him had to endure such conditions. He knew it would require more than just words or temporary relief. He would have to find a solution that could truly make a difference in her life. A solution that went beyond charity and touched the core of her struggles. The billionaire left her apartment that night with a mind full of thoughts and plans. The image of her sleeping on the cold road haunted him, a constant reminder of how fragile and unfair life could be. He realized that true wealth was not just about money, but about the ability to make meaningful changes in the lives of others. He understood that power and resources carried responsibility, and that responsibility could no longer be ignored. In the following days, he observed her closely at work, noticing the exhaustion in her movements, the quiet dedication in everything she did. He spoke to her subtly, asking about her life, her family, and her dreams. She was cautious at first, wary of his intentions, but gradually she began to open up. She spoke about her hopes for her children, her desire to provide them with opportunities she never had, and her fear of failing them despite her hard work. Her honesty and determination moved him deeply. He admired her resilience and the way she faced life's hardships without complaint. Yet he also felt a growing urgency to act. He could not allow such dedication to go unnoticed or unrewarded. The thought of doing nothing was unbearable. Late at night, in the quiet of his luxurious office, he began to make plans. He considered different ways to help, weighing the options carefully. He wanted to offer support that was respectful, empowering, and life-changing, not just a temporary solution. He thought about education for her children, financial security for her family, and opportunities for her to grow beyond the limitations she faced. He realized that this was a turning point, not just for her but for himself as well. Seeing the stark contrast between their lives, he understood the true meaning of compassion and empathy. He realized that wealth and success were hollow without the ability to make a positive difference in the lives of those who needed it most. The experience had opened his eyes, and he knew that he could never go back to ignoring the struggles of those around him. And so, the stage was set for a remarkable journey, one that would challenge both of them, transform their lives, and reveal the unexpected ways in which kindness, understanding, and courage could change the world. The billionaire, once focused solely on his own life and success, now faced a new purpose. And the maid, weary yet resilient, would soon find herself at the center of a story that no one could have anticipated. A story that began with a simple, unexpected encounter on a quiet, rainy night. The morning sun was just beginning to rise when the maid arrived at work, still feeling the cold dampness of the previous night clinging to her bones. She tried to shake off the memories of being found sleeping on the road, but they lingered, bringing a mixture of shame and gratitude. She had been wary, unsure of what the billionaire's intentions were, but his actions had been gentle and unexpected. Instead of anger, he had shown concern, and that alone had stirred something inside her. She wanted to believe that his interest was genuine, yet a part of her remained cautious. The billionaire, on his side, had made a decision that morning. He could not allow her to continue living this way. The sight of her exhausted body on the wet street had left a permanent impression on him. He knew that words alone would not help. He needed a plan, one that respected her dignity and offered real change. He spent hours considering what he could do, speaking with advisors and quietly observing her life from afar without intruding. He wanted to understand her world fully before making a move. That evening, after her shift, he invited her to meet him in his office. She hesitated at first, unsure why he had called her, but curiosity and a sense of trust nudged her to go. The office was large and imposing, filled with expensive furniture, books, and art. She felt small and out of place, but he greeted her with the same warmth and respect he had shown the night before. He asked her to sit, offering tea, which she accepted, still careful with her words. He began gently, avoiding any sense of judgment. "I saw you the other night," he said, his voice calm but serious. "I saw the exhaustion in your eyes and realized that things have been difficult for you. I want to help. I don't want this to just be a temporary gesture, but something that can make a real difference in your life." Her eyes widened, disbelief and emotion mixing as she looked at him. "Sir, I don't know what to say," she whispered. She felt a wave of emotion she could barely contain. Part of her wanted to run away from this unexpected kindness. Another part wanted to accept it, knowing it could change everything for her and her family. He leaned forward slightly, making it clear that he wanted her to feel comfortable. I understand pride can make accepting help difficult, but I need you to trust me. You work hard every day and I see the sacrifices you make. No one should have to endure what you endure. I want to offer you something different, something that can lift you and your family out of constant struggle." She took a deep breath, considering his words carefully. Pride and humility warred inside her. She had never been used to receiving such gestures. Her life had always been about giving, not taking. But she could feel the sincerity in his voice, the concern in his eyes, and she began to let her defenses down. "What exactly do you mean?" she asked cautiously. He explained that he wanted to provide support that went beyond money. He spoke of opportunities for her to pursue further education, to learn skills that could elevate her position in life. He wanted to ensure her family would have stability and security, a chance at a life that was not just about survival. He emphasized that it was not charity. It was an investment in her potential, her dedication, and her strength. Tears welled up in her eyes as she listened. The idea of not having to worry constantly about basic needs, of being able to care for her children without fear, was almost overwhelming. She had dreamed of better opportunities but had never imagined someone of such stature noticing her struggles and wanting to help. She wanted to believe him, but fear and caution lingered. "Sir, I don't want to take advantage of your kindness," she said softly. He shook his head. "You are not taking advantage. You are accepting an opportunity. I am offering this because I believe in your worth, your determination, and your heart. I see how much you give to those around you, and I want to help you achieve more without the constant weight of hardship." The conversation continued for hours, not just about immediate support but about her goals and dreams. She spoke about her hopes for her children, her desire to ensure they had access to education and opportunities she had never had. She talked about wanting to learn new skills herself, to be able to contribute more meaningfully to her family and community. He listened intently, taking notes mentally, making promises in his own quiet way that he would act to help her achieve these goals. As they spoke, she began to feel a sense of hope she had not felt in years. It was a cautious hope, one tempered by experience, but it was real. She realized that someone believed in her, that someone saw the effort, the struggle, and the heart she put into everything she did. It was not just a fleeting gesture. It was an acknowledgement of her humanity, and it meant more than she could express. The billionaire, meanwhile, felt a shift in his own perspective. He had always known the world had inequalities, but seeing her life up close, hearing her story, and understanding the quiet courage it took to face each day, humbled him. It was a reminder that wealth and power carried responsibility. It was not enough to accumulate riches. One had to use them to make a tangible difference in the lives of others. Before she left, he made one more promise. "I will take action. This is not just talk. I will ensure that you and your family are supported, and I will help you pursue opportunities that can truly change your life. But I need your trust. Can you do that?" She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I will try, sir. I want to believe." And with that, a new chapter began. Over the following days, he quietly arranged resources and support, ensuring she could access what she needed without embarrassment or complication. He coordinated with educators, mentors, and financial advisors to create a plan that was practical, sustainable, and empowering. Every detail was considered carefully, from her children's schooling to her own growth and development. He wanted to create a system that would help her thrive, not just survive. She noticed the changes slowly. Small gestures at first, a slight increase in her wages, access to better food and clothing for her children. But gradually, more substantial support followed. She could focus on her work without fear of collapsing from exhaustion. She began to feel the difference in her energy, her confidence, and her outlook on life. For the first time in many years, she felt a sense of security, of possibility. Despite the improvements, she faced challenges. Pride and humility clashed as she navigated this new reality. She feared judgment from neighbors and friends, worried they might see her as receiving special treatment or handouts. Yet each time doubt crept in, she remembered his words, the sincerity in his eyes, and the gesture of him finding her on that rainy night. It reminded her that this was not about charity. It was about recognition, opportunity, and empowerment. The billionaire continued to observe quietly, offering guidance only when necessary, allowing her to grow and adapt at her own pace. He watched her slowly transform from exhaustion and resignation to confidence and determination. It was not an immediate change, but a gradual evolution that reflected her inner strength and resilience. At night, he reflected on the changes he was witnessing. His life, once dominated by profit and strategy, now had a new dimension. He found satisfaction in seeing her flourish, a fulfillment that no business deal or contract had ever given him. He realized that true success was not measured in wealth alone, but in the lives one could touch and improve. Meanwhile, she began to embrace the possibilities before her. She took small steps toward learning new skills, managing her household more effectively, and helping her children pursue their interests. Each step built her confidence, reinforcing the belief that her life could be different, that she was deserving of support and success, and so, the bond between them grew, not of employer and employee, but of understanding, respect, and shared humanity. The billionaire had intervened at a moment of vulnerability, and in doing so, he had sparked a journey that would challenge, transform, and ultimately enrich both of their lives. The story of that night on the rainy street was no longer one of despair, but the beginning of something extraordinary, a reminder of the power of empathy, courage, and unexpected kindness. A few days later, the maid received an unexpected envelope. Inside were documents and instructions that would open doors she had only dreamed about. Her eyes widened as she read through the letters, realizing that the billionaire had arranged for her to attend a vocational training program, with flexible hours to accommodate her work and family responsibilities. Along with this, he had set up a small fund to help cover any immediate household expenses, so she would not have to worry about the basics while she learned and grew. At first, she felt overwhelmed. Pride and humility clashed within her. Accepting this kind of help felt strange and almost uncomfortable, but as she looked at the smiling faces of her children sleeping in the next room, she understood that this was not just about her. This was about their future. She would have to set aside her own discomfort and embrace the opportunity fully. Her first day at the training center was both exciting and intimidating. The building was modern and well-equipped, a stark contrast to the small apartment she called home. The instructors greeted her warmly, sensing her nervousness but also recognizing her determination. She was assigned a mentor, a kind woman who had herself risen from humble beginnings, and this mentor guided her patiently, encouraging her every step of the way. At work, the billionaire noticed subtle changes. She moved with slightly more confidence, her steps less burdened, her expression showing the faintest traces of hope. He saw that the small gestures of support, financial stability, access to education, and the knowledge that someone believed in her were starting to transform her life. She still worked hard, but there was a new lightness in her movements, a sense that she was no longer carrying the entire weight of the world on her shoulders. The first challenge came unexpectedly. Her neighbors and some colleagues noticed the changes and began to ask questions. Rumors began to circulate that she was receiving special treatment. At first, she felt a surge of anxiety and embarrassment. She did not want people to think she was being favored unfairly. Yet she remembered the billionaire's words about dignity, effort, and opportunity. She realized that she could not allow fear of judgment to stop her from pursuing a better life. She focused on her growth, letting her actions speak louder than the whispers around her. As the weeks passed, she learned new skills, each one adding a layer of confidence and competence. She discovered a talent for managing tasks efficiently, for organizing and planning, and for taking initiatives that even her employers had not noticed before. The training sessions became more than just learning. They became a source of empowerment. She realized that knowledge was a tool that could help her navigate life more effectively, not just at work, but in every aspect of her life. Meanwhile, the billionaire continued his subtle observation. He did not interfere or impose, but he proved, as with resilience. When challenges arose, such as unexpected bills or temporary work difficulties, she faced them with a calm, solution-oriented mindset. She relied on her problem-solving skills, resourcefulness, and the support network she had begun to build. Her capacity for patience and perseverance grew, and she became a role model for her children and peers alike. One afternoon, she decided to start a small initiative in her neighborhood, helping families who faced similar struggles. She organized informal learning sessions for children, shared advice with parents, and coordinated small support groups. The response was heartwarming. Neighbors who had once been indifferent now approached her with gratitude and respect. She realized that empowerment was contagious, that by improving her own life, she could inspire and assist others to do the same. The billionaire noticed these developments quietly, impressed by the scope of her impact. What had begun as a gesture of assistance had blossomed into a movement of empowerment and community improvement. He recognized that his role was not to lead, but to provide opportunities and observe the extraordinary ways in which her initiative and resilience could flourish. Her success was hers alone, but he felt proud knowing that his actions had helped spark this transformation. As she looked at her children, neighbors, and the progress she had made, she felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She realized that her life was no longer dictated by exhaustion and fear, but shaped by opportunity, choice, and determination. The once overwhelming struggles were now challenges she could face with confidence. Her journey had taught her that growth required courage, effort, and the willingness to accept help when needed, and she had embraced all three. The neighborhood began to change subtly as well. People who had felt powerless or resigned began to take small steps toward improving their lives, inspired by her example. The energy she brought into the community encouraged collaboration, learning, and mutual support. The transformation was not immediate or dramatic, but it was steady and meaningful, rooted in real change rather than superficial gestures. Through it all, the bond between her and the billionaire remained a source of guidance and stability. He respected her independence, admired her resilience, and continued to support her quietly. Their interactions were marked by mutual trust and understanding. He had entered her life unexpectedly on that rainy night, but his influence had grown into a foundation upon which she could build her future. As the days turned into months, she continued to thrive, learning new skills, supporting her children, and making a meaningful impact on her community. The journey was ongoing, filled with both challenges and triumphs, but she faced each day with confidence, resilience, and hope. The life she had once imagined now felt achievable, grounded in hard work, opportunity, and the unwavering belief in her own potential. By the end of the 4th chapter of her journey, the transformation was clear to everyone who knew her. She had grown from a tired, overworked woman barely surviving each day into a confident, capable, and inspiring individual. Her family flourished, her community benefited from her initiatives, and her own sense of self-worth had reached new heights. The journey had been challenging, but it had also been profoundly rewarding, proving that with opportunity, support, and determination, extraordinary change is possible. The seasons changed, and with them, the maid's life continued to evolve. What had begun as a simple act of compassion from the billionaire had grown into a journey of transformation, empowerment, and inspiration. She had gained skills, confidence, and financial stability, but more importantly, she had discovered the power of her own determination and the far-reaching impact of her actions. Her children thrived like never before. With access to books, educational programs, and a supportive environment, they developed a love for learning and curiosity about the world. She encouraged them every day, sharing lessons about resilience, kindness, and the value of effort. Seeing them excel brought her immense pride and joy, reinforcing her belief that her hard work and the opportunities provided had changed not just her life, but the trajectory of their future. Her influence in the community expanded. She continued to organize small learning sessions, mentoring other children and helping parents with practical advice. She had learned that empowerment was not only about personal growth but about lifting others around her. Her neighbors, who had once doubted or underestimated her, now approached her with respect and admiration. Her actions inspired them to strive for better lives, creating a ripple effect of positive change. The small steps she took each day accumulated into meaningful transformation in her surroundings. At work, she became a valued and trusted figure. Her efficiency, leadership, and empathy set her apart. Colleagues sought her guidance, recognizing her insight and problem-solving abilities. She handled responsibilities that had once seemed impossible, proving that perseverance combined with opportunity and support could lead to remarkable accomplishments. Even her superiors began to acknowledge her contributions, not as a favor or charity, but as the result of her dedication and talent. The billionaire observed all of this quietly, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. His initial act of kindness had evolved into something far greater than he had imagined. He realized that his wealth and influence could be tools for meaningful change, but only if used thoughtfully and with respect for the dignity of others. Seeing the maid flourish and extend her influence inspired him to consider other ways to support people quietly, empowering them to take control of their own destinies rather than imposing solutions. Their relationship, once defined by employer and employee, had transformed into a bond of trust, respect, and mutual admiration. The maid valued his guidance and insight, but she also appreciated his discretion and humility. He did not interfere unnecessarily, allowing her to make her own choices and take ownership of her growth. This approach strengthened her independence and reinforced the lesson that real empowerment comes from within, nurtured by opportunity, support, and belief. One day, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. She thought of the rainy night when she had been found exhausted on the street, the embarrassment she had felt, and the unexpected kindness that had changed everything. She realized how far she had come, from barely surviving to thriving, from fear and uncertainty to confidence and vision. She felt gratitude for the opportunities given and pride in the steps she had taken to make the most of them. Her life was no longer dictated solely by circumstances but shaped by her choices, effort, and resilience. Her family life flourished alongside her personal growth. With financial stability and improved living conditions, she could provide her children with education, nourishment, and encouragement. She found time to nurture her relationships, creating a warm and supportive environment at home. Her children in turn responded with love, curiosity, and motivation, forming a foundation for future success and happiness. The cycle of hope and empowerment that began with her own transformation now extended to her family, setting the stage for long-term positive change. The community initiatives she started continued to grow. Small projects became more organized, and other members of the neighborhood began to contribute. She facilitated workshops on practical skills, coordinated group learning sessions for children, and created networks of support for families in need. Her reputation as a capable, compassionate, and inspiring figure spread, and people who had once struggled or felt hopeless began to see that change was possible. The ripple effect of her actions highlighted the power of leadership rooted in empathy, resilience, and collaboration. The billionaire noticed how her influence extended beyond her immediate circle. He saw that his initial support had ignited a chain reaction, demonstrating the true power of opportunity combined with personal effort. It was a reminder that small, thoughtful gestures could grow into significant, lasting impact. He felt both pride and humility, pride in witnessing her accomplishments, and humility in realizing that his role, while important, was only a catalyst for the strength and determination she herself brought to the journey. As she continued to grow, the maid faced new challenges, but she approached them with a newfound confidence. She had learned to navigate difficulties with patience, creativity, and problem-solving skills. She understood that setbacks were part of life, but they did not define her. Each challenge became an opportunity to learn, adapt, and grow stronger. Her resilience inspired those around her, reinforcing the message that persistence and courage could overcome even the most daunting obstacles. One afternoon, she received a letter from a local school, inviting her to speak to students about her journey. At first, she was nervous, unsure if her story was significant enough to share. But she realized that her experiences could offer hope and guidance to others. When she stood before the students, she spoke honestly about her struggles, the challenges she had faced, and the steps she had taken to overcome them. She emphasized the importance of hard work, resilience, and seeking opportunities when they arise. The students listened attentively, inspired by her honesty, courage, and determination. Her impact continued to multiply. Parents began seeking advice on supporting their children's, guided guidance and encouragement when needed. He was careful to respect her independence, understanding that true empowerment came from choice, not imposition. He found joy in seeing her grow, in watching her gradually embrace the possibilities before her. It was a different kind of satisfaction than he had ever experienced, one that was deeply personal and emotionally fulfilling. The maid also faced moments of self-doubt. Late at night, after long days of work and training, she would sit quietly in her room thinking about her progress. Was she really capable of achieving more? Could she handle the responsibilities and expectations that now rested on her shoulders? The memories of the past, the exhaustion, the sleepless nights, the constant worry haunted her, threatening to pull her back into despair. But each time, she reminded herself of the opportunity she had been given and the belief the billionaire had shown in her potential. She drew strength from that, letting it fuel her determination. Her children noticed the changes too. They saw her smile more often, heard her laugh, and felt the warmth and reassurance in her voice. The small apartment, once filled with tension and exhaustion, began to feel lighter and more hopeful. The fund set up for household expenses allowed her to buy better food, educational materials, and small comforts that had previously been impossible. The simple act of being able to provide for her family without constant stress brought her an immense sense of relief and pride. One day, the mentor at the training center suggested that she take on a small project, a task that required her to plan, organize, and execute independently. At first she hesitated, unsure if she was ready, but she remembered the encouragement she had received, the belief that her efforts could make a difference. With careful planning and dedication, she completed the project successfully. The sense of accomplishment was overwhelming. For the first time, she felt capable of handling challenges and creating opportunities for herself. Word of her progress reached the billionaire. He felt a quiet pride and satisfaction, but he also remained humble and observant. He understood that her success was not his to claim. It was hers, a product of her hard work, resilience, and courage. Yet, he could not help but feel a deep sense of fulfillment knowing that he had played a role in creating the conditions for her growth. The transformation he witnessed was inspiring, a reminder that small acts of kindness could ripple far beyond initial expectations. As her confidence grew, she began to consider ways to give back. She started helping her neighbors with small tasks, sharing tips she had learned at the training center, and offering guidance to others who faced similar struggles. Her life, once limited by hardship, now had a new dimension, one where she could contribute meaningfully, not just survive. She realized that empowerment was not just about personal success, but about uplifting others along the way. The journey was not without setbacks. There were days when exhaustion returned, when mistakes were made, and when old fears resurfaced, but each time she confronted the challenge with resilience. Learning from the experience and moving forward, she understood that growth was a process, one that required patience, persistence, and courage. The bond between the billionaire and the maid continued to strengthen, grounded in mutual respect and understanding. He remained a supportive presence, offering guidance and resources without overshadowing her independence. She learned to trust his intentions fully, understanding that his support was not conditional or self-serving, but driven by genuine concern for her well-being and potential. By the end of the first few months, the transformation was visible to all who knew her. She moved with confidence, spoke with assurance, and approached challenges with a new sense of determination. Her family experienced stability and comfort for the first time in years, and her children thrived in an environment filled with encouragement and opportunity. The small apartment, once a symbol of struggle, now reflected hope, growth, and possibility. The story of that rainy night had become the catalyst for profound change. It was no longer just about a chance encounter. It was about the ripple effects of empathy, trust, and belief in human potential. The billionaire had acted boldly, offering opportunity instead of pity, guidance instead of control. And the maid had responded with courage, resilience, and determination, transforming her life and the lives of those around her. As she prepared for the next phase of her journey, she felt a sense of purpose and clarity she had never known before. The support she received had not only provided practical assistance, but had awakened a deeper belief in her own abilities. She understood that the future was now in her hands, and she was ready to embrace it fully, equipped with the skills, confidence, and courage to create lasting change. As the months passed, the maid's life transformed in ways she had never imagined. The initial support from the billionaire had opened doors, but it was her own determination and courage that carried her forward. Each morning she woke with a renewed sense of purpose. Her children thrived under her care, her home became a place of warmth and security, and she found pride in her ability to balance work, learning, and family. Her training continued to expand her skills. She learned not only practical vocational abilities but also leadership, organization, and problem-solving techniques. These lessons were applied in her day-to-day life, improving her efficiency and confidence. She began to take initiatives at work, suggesting small improvements and handling tasks with precision. Colleagues who had once underestimated her now watched with admiration, and some even sought her advice. The respect she gained was deeply fulfilling and a testament to her growing capabilities. Despite her success, challenges remained. Adjusting to her new circumstances was not always easy. Pride and humility continued to clash, especially when interacting with neighbors who had noticed her improved living conditions. She worried about being perceived as receiving favoritism or special treatment. Each time she reminded herself that her efforts and resilience were the true reasons for her progress. The external opinions no longer controlled her decisions. She had learned to value her own judgment and the tangible results of her hard work. Meanwhile, the billionaire quietly observed these developments. He admired the way she managed her responsibilities, balancing growth, family, and personal development. He saw her transformation not only in her actions, but also in her demeanor. There was a new brightness in her eyes, a sense of calm determination that had been missing before. He felt satisfaction but also humility, recognizing that his role was supportive, not directive. He had provided the means, but she had taken them and created something far greater. Her confidence encouraged her to explore new possibilities. She began to consider initiatives that went beyond her immediate family and work. Small projects at home, like organizing community activities or tutoring neighborhood children, allowed her to share her newfound skills. Each successful endeavor built her confidence and reinforced the belief that her life could have a meaningful impact beyond herself. Her journey of empowerment was beginning to touch the lives of others, extending the ripple effect of the support she had received. The children flourished alongside her. With access to better educational materials and a stable environment, they excelled in school and showed curiosity about the world. She encouraged them to dream big and work hard, emphasizing the value of effort, learning, and kindness. Watching them grow and succeed brought her immense joy and a sense of fulfillment she had never experienced before. The little apartment that had once felt confined and limiting now became a place of encouragement, hope, and nurturing. In the workplace, her initiatives did not go unnoticed. She began to take on leadership responsibilities, coordinating tasks and guiding others in small but effective ways. Her natural empathy, combined with her growing expertise, made her an effective and respected figure. Colleagues began to recognize her ability to handle challenges with grace, to solve problems creatively, and to inspire cooperation. She realized that leadership was not about authority, but about influence, guidance, and the ability to empower others. The billionaire occasionally checked in, offering subtle guidance and encouragement. Their interactions were marked by mutual respect, not hierarchy. He listened to her ideas, discussed her plans, and offered advice when requested. She appreciated his quiet support, understanding that he did not seek credit or control but genuinely wanted her to thrive. Their relationship had evolved into one of trust, mentorship, and understanding, a far cry from the typical employer-employee dynamic. Life at home continued to improve as well. The small fund provided for household needs allowed her to create a more comfortable environment for her family. She purchased books for her children, improved nutrition, and created spaces for learning and play. She also managed to save small amounts, thinking ahead for emergencies and future opportunities. Financial security brought not just comfort, but a sense of independence and stability that she had never known. It was a remarkable change from the nights she had spent exhausted on the street, uncertain of how to care for her children and manage daily life. Her personal growth also extended to emotional strength. She learned to handle stress and setback,